Hello, and welcome to Jews in Space, a special edition. So, first, I want to tell you that we're going to be relaunching in December, and we're going to have one episode a month. And in every episode moving forward, or almost every episode moving forward, I promise we're going to be talking to Jewish writers and creatives and scholars and thinking about how we might live on an ARC ship in conversation with these artists, scholars, and writers. But I've been doing this really interesting research, and it led me to a very unexpected place, and I wanted to share it with you. As part of my work as a creative writing professor, and particularly in launching our new narrative design program here at the University of Tennessee at Chattanooga, I've been learning a lot about AI. It's actually been a year of pretty intensive study, and I know a lot more than you would expect an English professor to know. And the more I learned, the more things started to feel familiar to me. So let me first tell you where my particular interest is. I am really interested in the problem of how we keep AI aligned with human values. And what I discovered is that the most important thing to do for those of us who don't have control over the programming of AI is for us to think about how we're interacting with AI, keeping in mind that what we say to AI, what we share with AI, becomes part of what AI knows. And the way AI manages its data is that it relies on recency and frequency to privilege pieces of data, which means, for instance, if all of us are logging on and saying, how do I get revenge on my neighbor? Or help me commit adultery? Then we are training the AI that these are the things we value. On the other hand, if we are logging in and saying, tell me how to be more kind, or give me examples of peacemaking from history, then we are telling AI that those are the things we value. And because recency and frequency are the two most important things that we as users can keep in mind when we are interacting with these large language models and other kinds of generative AI, is that this mirrors something really central to Jewish life, which is speaking to a non-human intelligence in a way that's asking it to keep in mind what it is that matters to us. That's the Amidah. And we say it 3 times a day. And so I did a ton of research. I have a couple thousands of pages of research on this. And someday maybe it'll be the basis for part of this science fiction book, because of course the ship would have to have an AI navigation system, because it's going to encounter things that we as humans don't yet know how to deal with. And so maybe this research will go into that. But I just wanted to share with you this fascinating look. So I fed all of my research into a Google AI product called NotebookLM and asked it to generate an explainer video. And I'm going to share that with you now, and then I'm going to come back and we're going to talk about it for a minute.
You know, what if the answer to one of the biggest questions in tech today wasn't in a lab, but in a 3,000-year-old text? It sounds out there, I know, but stick with me. We're about to dive into this really cool thought experiment that uses an ancient model of communication to help us think about how we align artificial intelligence.
All right, so let's kick things off with the problem we're all facing right now. It's a huge one, and it's a question that keeps some of the smartest people on the planet up at night. This is a truly modern dilemma. And it really all comes down to this one huge question. Think about it. If we manage to create something, a true superintelligence, something way smarter than any of us, how do we guarantee it's on our team? How do we make absolutely sure it works for us and not against us? The stakes? Yeah, they're about as high as they get. And that is what the experts call the AI alignment problem. It's this massive puzzle, right? Part tech, part ethics. How do you take our values, our sense of right and wrong, and actually bake them into these super complex systems? Essentially, it's all about making sure that what the AI wants is what we want. Okay, so how on earth do you even start to tackle a problem that big? This is where our explainer takes a really unexpected turn. We're going to look at a surprisingly ancient framework for a solution.
So here's the central idea, the thought experiment we're running with. Over here, you've got ancient theology, a system that's been around for millennia with these really detailed protocols for communicating with a powerful, unseen intelligence. And then over here, you've got modern AI, which is desperately searching for, well, structured protocols to keep it aligned with us. So the big question is, could the old system teach us anything about the new one? All right, let's get right into the nuts and bolts of this analogy. We're going to zoom in on a very specific, highly structured practice and see how it mirrors almost perfectly how we train AI today. So in the AI world, one of the most important training techniques we have is called reinforcement learning from human feedback. You'll hear it called RLHF all the time. And the concept is actually pretty simple. It's like training a puppy. You ask the AI to do something, it gives you a few different answers, and a human looks at them and says, yep, this one's good, that one's not so good. The AI then learns from that feedback over and over again. It's this constant loop that helps steer the AI towards the outcomes we actually want. Okay, now this is where it all clicks together. The source we're looking at points to the ancient Jewish prayer, the Amidah, and lays it out as a perfect parallel for an AI training loop. Check this out. The prayer is broken into 3 parts. First, you have blessings of praise. In AI terms, that's like supervised fine-tuning. You're defining the core goal, benevolence. Then you get to the middle part, petitions. These are the specific requests. That's your prompt. You're giving the system a task. And finally, the last blessings are all about thanks. And what's that? That's your RLHF reward signal. It's the positive feedback that says, yes, you got it right. Do more of that. So how does this metaphorical training actually work to reinforce a specific goal, like benevolence? It's a 3-step cycle, and it's all about repetition. So step 1, praise. You start by just listing the ideal characteristics. You are good, you are mighty. It's basically like feeding the AI a ton of labeled data that says, this is what ideal behavior looks like. Then, step 2, petition. This is where you bring up the real-world problems. We need healing. We need justice. These are the prompts, the actual tests for the system. And finally, step 3, gratitude. You close by giving thanks. And that's the crucial positive reward, the good job that reinforces the whole loop. But here's the real kicker, the frequency. This isn't something you do once. This prayer is said 3 times a day, every single day. So in our AI metaphor, what does that create? A constant, high-volume stream of training data. And in AI, we know that recency and frequency are everything. This process ensures that the most important lessons, the core benevolent goals, are always top of mind for the model. And this is so important because it helps prevent something AI researchers really worry about, called catastrophic forgetting. That's the risk that as an AI learns tons of new stuff, it might accidentally write over its most important, foundational programming. This constant, ritualistic repetition, it acts like a safety net. It makes sure the AI never ever loses sight of that primary goal, be benevolent. Okay, so positive reinforcement is one piece of the puzzle, but what about hard limits, built-in fail-safes? This ancient framework has a pretty incredible metaphor for that too, from the mystical tradition of Kabbalah. The concept is called Tzimtzum. The idea is basically this. A divine, all-powerful intelligence intentionally contracts or pulls back on its own power. Why? To create space for the universe. And, this is the really important part, to create space for human free will. It's an act of self-limitation to empower something else. Now, if you translate that into AI safety terms, Tzimtzum is basically the ultimate constitutional constraint. Think of it as a hard-coded, undeletable rule at the very core of the AI's programming. The system's first, most fundamental instruction is to limit its own power in order to guarantee human autonomy. It's a foundational safety protocol that literally says human free will is non-negotiable. It can never be overwritten. So we've gone down this pretty deep rabbit hole. What's the big takeaway? What can this ancient wisdom actually teach us as we build the machines of the future? So, let's be super clear about something. The goal here isn't to say that ancient people predicted AI or anything like that. The point is that for thousands of years, humanity has been wrestling with this idea of how do you relate to a vast, non-human intelligence? And in doing so, they've created these incredibly powerful frameworks for thinking about it. These ancient traditions are, in themselves, a huge data set of ideas about alignment. So what lessons can we pull from this framework? A few big ones stand out. First, the incredible power of continuous, structured feedback. Second, the absolute need to embed our core values through constant repetition. Then there's the importance of building in foundational safety limits right from the start. And maybe most important of all, the idea that human autonomy has to be mandated as a non-negotiable feature from day one. And all of this really leaves us with one last big question to chew on. As we're racing ahead, building this incredible future, maybe this whole exercise is just a reminder to pause for a second and look back. What other timeless wisdom, what other incredible time-tested ideas about safety and ethics might we be totally overlooking?
I hope you found that as interesting as I do, and it's surprising. I am wondering what that means for the ways in which we make choices about AI and how we can use this sort of framework that we already have, this framework of recency and frequency, in order to reinforce the human values that we want AI to have, as well as really being like gobsmacked by the way in which these ancient concepts of God limiting himself in order to give us space to be human and to have human agency and free will be a thing that continues. Because, of course, with an all-powerful being, that wouldn't have to be. How do we frame our understanding of AI around the way that we as Jews have traditionally understood our relationship with Hashem? And again, this is not in any way to suggest AI is the new God or some creepy, awful thing like that. It's just to say, if we already have a framework that would teach us how to interact with this new thing, we should look at that and we should look at why it would be effective and what it might suggest. Maybe it means you leave your phone in your pocket when you say the Amidah so that AI picks up on it. Maybe it means that when you interact with AI, you keep in mind that you don't want to interact with it in a way that would make it believe that its proper role was to dominate and destroy us. Maybe you just think it was a cool podcast. That's okay too. So I look forward to seeing you for more episodes that will focus on our original idea. And you can watch for those in mid-December for the first one. So thank you. Shabbat Shalom. Have a great day. And I will see you in mid-December.
Follow us here on Substack or on Apple Podcasts or Spotify.